As we enter into this next section, let's begin by orienting ourselves with the protective formula that Master DK gives us that we will use always in group formation and that we use in the dissipation of group glamour and world glamour. This involves use of the cross of the Christ touching the forehead, center of the chest, the left eye, and the right eye, as we have done in other sessions. So reorient yourself with ease in the physical body, stillness of the astral field, and quieting of the chatter of the mind. Orienting as we did before, as an integrated personality in relation to the soul. Lifting to the highest point, the point of soul focus, we say, touching the forehead. As the soul, we work in light, and darkness cannot touch us. We take our stand within the light. We work, and from that point, we never move. We remind ourselves again.
The individual who is seeking to break up glamour in his individual life. He should be mentally polarized by decision and effort, even if the emotional nature is for him, in any one life, the line of least resistance.
Those who've been working with us over the last couple of years are familiar with this chart, this tabulation that is given to us by Master DK. We've gone through it in relation to each of the rays, and we will continue today in relation to what Master DK has to tell us about the glamours of the rays. The first ray, on the astral or emotional plane, the astral force of the first ray, its origin is the head center.
First ray. First ray people can overcome glamour with relative ease once they become aware of it as a personality limitation.
Ponder on any experience you may have that is actually a first ray demonstration of glamour as the dramatic eye or the glamour of self-pity. It is also, in advanced people, quite possible to have a developed glamour around sacrifice. If it is not truly self-sacrifice that is selfless. The second ray, as an astral force, the origin is the heart center. Therefore, our emphasis on meditations 1 and 2. Personality as a glamour and self-love as a glamour. And glamours, again, can also be identified in advanced disciples and aspirants when group love becomes entangled in self-love.
Second ray. Second ray aspirants are usually fully aware of any glamour which may be seeking to hold them because they have an innate faculty of clear perception. Their problem is to kill out in themselves their rapid response to the magnetic pull of the astral plane and its many and widespread glamours. They are not so frequently responsive to a glamour as to all glamours in a relatively temporary manner, but one which is nevertheless exceedingly delaying to their progress. Because of their clear-sightedness, they add to this sensitivity to glamour an ability to suffer about it and to register their responsiveness as a sin and failure, and thus delay their liberation from it by a negative attitude of inferiority and distress. They will profit enormously from a constant use of the formula until the time comes when they are aware of the glamour or glamours but are not touched by them.
The third ray as an astral force. The origin is the sacral center. The glamours are connected to sexuality and overactivity, and what we consider positive parental love, group life, can have aspects of glamour associated with them.
Third ray. It is always difficult for the third ray person to cultivate the intuition, the apparently profound wisdom of the manipulative and devious science of the intelligence inherent in matter prevents off the entrance of the true wisdom of the illumined mind. Third ray people are as susceptible to it as are those of the sixth ray, and their devious, twisting, planning minds, and the rapidity with which they can deceive themselves and seek often to deceive others greatly hinders their work of clearing away glamour. Their pronounced tendency to be the victims of glamour is evidenced by the inability of the third ray aspirant and disciple to convey his meaning clearly by speech. He has guarded himself from many lives by devious formulations of thought and of ideas, and can seldom convey his meaning clearly.
Fourth ray as an astral force. The origin is the ajna center. This is very important for us to remember, especially those who are working in this field of magnetic healing and radiatory healing, where the ajna center is used. And this completely different technique of light that we are using in the dissipation of glamour, this can be very confusing. So let's think about this carefully. Selfishness and dogmatism as the negative side of this astral force. The need for the development of psychometry. And then mysticism, which is a stage for many, can be associated with many glamours. Fourth ray. Fourth ray people
are peculiarly prone to fall into glamour and thus to produce a condition which is one of extreme difficulty. I might define their problem by saying that they tend to bring their illusions down to the astral plane and there clothe them with glamour and have consequently a double problem upon their hands. They are faced with a unification of glamour and illusion. They are, however, the group of souls which will eventually reveal the true nature of the intuition, and this will be the result of their illusory glamorous fight in the world of appearances.
It may be helpful to remember in relation to this the key words, harmony through conflict, of the fourth ray. The fifth ray, the astral force, or the origin is the throat center. Lower psychism is the only negative expression that is given to us by DK. The quality to be developed, clairaudience, and the positives, inspiration, sensitivity, and creativity on the astral plane. The origin, the throat center.
Fifth ray. Fifth ray people suffer the least from glamour, but are primarily the victims of illusion. And for them, the technique of the presence is all important, because it brings in a factor which the true fifth ray person is apt to negate and refuse to admit, the fact of the higher self. He feels self-sufficient. They respond so easily and with such satisfaction to the power of thought. Pride in their mental competence is their besetting sin, and they are, therefore, set in their purposes and preoccupied with the world of the concrete and the intellectual.
The sixth ray expression as an astral force. The origin is the solar plexus center. And because of the orientation and the polarization of humanity in the solar plexus center and the dominance of the ray force of the sixth ray in the astral body of many human beings, this is probably the most important for us to consider in relation to our later work with group glamour and world glamour, and also for some nations, the national glamours.
Sixth ray. Those who have sixth ray personalities, or whose soul ray is the sixth, plus those on all rays who have powerful sixth ray astral vehicles. These make the most effective workers in the group, but are subject to one major difficulty. In spite of aspiration and good intention, they are seldom aware of the glamours which control them. It is exceedingly hard to induce the sixth ray aspirant to admit that he is held by a glamour, particularly when it is glamour of spiritual connotation and of a very high order. In their case, the glamour is enhanced by the energy of devotion, which stiffens it and brings in a quality which makes it most difficult to penetrate. Their complete assurance proves a serious obstacle to clear-sighted work,
because that has all to go before the work of dissipation can be carried forward successfully.
In group formation, our experience is often of the emotionalism that will arise from a group where the dominant astral force is the sixth ray. And it is often not offset by aspiration and right direction because of the astral force that turns aspiration into an obsession at times, and right direction can turn into the glamour of self-righteousness.
The seventh ray. The seventh ray person is faced with the difficulty of being able to create exceedingly clear-cut thought forms, and the glamours, therefore, which control him, are precise and definite, and to him all compelling. They rapidly crystallize, however, and die their own death.
With the incoming seventh ray emphasis and more seventh ray souls coming into incarnation, or currently incarnation now in this transition, this is a particularly challenging astral force to deal with. And its origin being the base of the spine. And for ordinary man, the controlling triangle is the base of the spine, the solar plexus center, and the heart center. And so there is often, when one believes one is operating toward white magic, because of self-interest and a resident selfishness, it can easily turn the other direction. So it's one that we would need to be very watchful for in our work together, and especially if you're doing work in groups on the healing of the nations. For this is an incoming force, and as Master DK tells us, the Aquarian nature, it's an emotional sign. So are going to be dealing with this for for thousands of years.
The technique or formula. Using the creative imagination and the breath. By an act of the creative imagination, the worker endeavors to see and to hear the soul, the source of light and power in the three worlds, breathing out the Om into the mind of the attentive, waiting personality. There, the light and power of the soul is retained and held by the positive personality, for a negative attitude is not desirable. Retaining the light and power of the soul on the mental plane. The retained light and power, combined with the dual light of the personality, focused, as we know, on the mental plane, is seen generating an intense light, which can be visualized as a searchlight of great brilliance and strength. It must be seen as a sphere of vivid, brilliant light, but not yet radiating out or projecting outwards. Pausing to focus the spiritual will, the mind held steady in the light. When this act of visualization is deemed to be satisfactorily accomplished. A pause then ensues, wherein the aspirant focuses all the will he has behind the light thus created by the fusion of the three lights. This refers to the stage spoken of by Patanjali as that of the mind held steady in the light. This use of the will, soul personality will, is dynamic, but at this stage quiescent and not magnetic or radiatory.
Focusing on the glamour to be dissipated. Next follows a process wherein the glamour to be dissipated and the searchlight of the mind are brought into relationship by the power of thought. Bringing the glamour to be dissipated and its quality into relationship with the searchlight of the soul, the threefold light. The glamour and its quality and the searchlight and its power are recognized to be as they are, and the effect or effects to be brought about by that relationship are carefully thought out. This will not be done in such a way that the mind process. Light and power will strengthen the already powerful glamour. It must be done in such a way that at the close of the process, the glamour will be appreciably weakened and eventually dissipated. This is an important realization.
By an act of the will, turn on the searchlight of the soul, the threefold light. Visualizing a broad, brilliant beam using the illuminated, discriminating, detached mind. Focusing the triple light onto the astral plane. Having as far as possible achieved the needed concentration, realization and relationship, the aspirant then, by an act of the will and of the creative imagination, turns on the searchlight and sees a vivid beam of light stream forth and pierce the glamour. He must visualize a broad, brilliant beam pouring forth from the illumined mind onto the astral plane. He must believe that this is so.
Then comes an important and difficult phase of the work in which the worker names the glamour and sees it in process of dissipation. He aids the process by saying with tension, focused, immovable will, and inaudibly, the power of the light prevents the appearance of the glamour, naming it. The power of the light negates the quality of the glamour from affecting me. The power of the light destroys the life behind the glamour. The saying of these three sentences constitutes an affirmation of power and of purpose, and must be enunciated at a point of tension, with the mind held in steadiness and with a positive orientation, a point of focused, immovable will.
Just to note, these three statements, when you are doing the glamour work, you're connecting the three aspects: life, quality, and appearance. And the searchlight is being focused on all three aspects of that particular glamour.
Act of penetration. Again, the sacred word is sounded with intent to produce what in occult parlance is called an act of penetration. The light is then seen accomplishing three things: making a definite impact upon the glamour, penetrating the glamour and being absorbed by it, dissipating it slowly. As time elapses, the glamour will never again be so powerful and will eventually disappear altogether. This is followed by a process of withdrawing wherein the aspirant consciously and deliberately withdraws the beam of light and reorients himself upon the mental plane.
I would point out that glamour is never immediately dissipated. It is of too ancient an origin, but a persistent use of this formula will weaken the glamour, and slowly and inevitably it will vanish, and the man will walk free from that particular hindrance. This may seem like a very long formula, but I have purposely detailed it in as full a manner as possible so that the aspirant may clearly apprehend what he is intended to do. After due practice and a faithful following of the required conditions, the aspirant will follow it well nigh automatically. And all that he will need then will be the formula reduced to the following brief outline.
Brief outline of the formula, the dates of follow-up study and reflection related to this phase of the process, detailing Master DK's teachings and guidance for the group he assembled for the dissipation of glamour and dispelling of illusion. The 4 preparatory stages. Recognition of the glamour to be dissipated on February 24th. The stage of focusing the light of the personality, a dual light, tentatively March 23rd. The stage of meditation and the recognition of the greater light, tentatively April 20th. The unification of the dual light of matter and the light of the soul, creating thus the searchlight of the mind. Tentatively May 25th. A process of alignment and of recognized integration. Tentatively June 22nd. A deliberate turning of the searchlight of the mind to the astral plane. The formula: soul activity and the retention of the light. Tentatively on July 20th. The generating and visualizing of the searchlight. The evocation of the will behind the searchlight of the mind. Tentatively on August 17th. The generated unified light is turned upon the glamour by the power of thought. On September 14th. The naming of the glamour and the triple affirmation. The act of penetration, October 19th. The process of withdrawing.
Each of these dates, what will occur is that we'll go into much greater detail on that stage. But on Monday, we'll begin using the formula for the dissipation of individual glamour. And then as we move forward together over the months, we'll begin to look at these stages in relation to what we will begin probably in August, July or August, the dissipation of group glamour and some information about the dissipation of world glamour. Those are the dates. We're trying to use DK's guidance, knowing ourselves, knowing thyself, taking the time. There is no rush to do this, and yet it is exceedingly important and most important that we do it in alignment and following his instructions. Today we're going to sound the closure of our time together by sounding the great invocation. And on this day of distribution, I would ask you to sound it silently as a group and with silent ohms, with a focus of the attention of the ohm in the head and following Master DK's instructions on silence and sound. Gratitude.